welcome to the podcast, brother. It is a pleasure to have you on here today.
Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here.
So little context to how Ethan and I met, as I've met many people this way, on the Ecstatic dance floor. It always brings so much insight to me of how people move, especially how men move. Big men like yourself, strong men like yourself. It's rare to see strong men moving freely on the dance floor. And I felt like I already knew a lot about you just by seeing you on the dance floor, but then dropping in with you, talking with you more, seeing the multitude of things you've done and experienced and have created in this world, it made it pretty obvious that I want to have a sit down with you and drop into your life. And I'm really glad that we got to take this space today.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, you probably saw me at what was amongst my most uncomfortable moments in my life.
Yeah.
Coming to Nosara 2.5 months ago, I had never ecstatically danced before. I had no idea what that was. I remember the first time being in a circle, okay, and thinking to myself, everyone around me just seems to know what they're doing. And I'm like, maybe I should move my arms. Maybe I should move my legs. Like, who's looking at me? What's going on? To be able to go from that space to a space of complete freedom and stop caring what people think, and to be able to just move, laugh, close my eyes, feel, have fun, be silly, be whatever, has been one of the most freeing and playful ways of being. And so whether the first time you saw me was that uncomfortable robot where like I couldn't get my own shoulders out of my own way.
I saw some of that.
Yeah. You know, or like a twirling madness of just weird, you know, I'm grateful for all of it because I have been both of those. They're both aspects of who I am and both played out on the dance floor.
Well, it speaks volumes to who you are as a person to come to a space like that. And I say that about many people that will come into these spaces of unknown, especially you as a traveler who maybe didn't have a lot of friends here or community that is known here, to go to a space of like, I have no idea what I'm doing or how to do it, but lean in and play along the way. It speaks volumes, which I imagine goes back and back and back to experiences and moments you've had of like, this is an edge, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to dance with it in different ways.
It's interesting because it's something new for me, actually.
Oh, cool.
I have been afraid of my edges for a long time. I think a lot of us look strong on the outside and inside we're freaking out. And if there was like an attractive girl at a cafe, and this was 6 months ago, I'd be afraid to say hello. If there was something like a new sport, like pickleball or something like that, and someone's like, hey, come do it. And I'm like, I'm not going to be good at that. I actually wouldn't do it. And I remembered thinking about how everything that I want in life exists on the other side of fear. And I still couldn't get over the hump as a result, even though I knew it. And a few months ago, before I came here, I was deciding where to go. And I was looking at a few different places, and I found a spot here in Nosara, and I talked to one of my best friends, Ulysses. And I was like, man, this place looks great, but there's no hot water. And I don't know if I could deal with like a cold shower every day. And he texted me back, and he said to me, Ethan, getting comfortable being uncomfortable is your path to freedom. And I remember looking at that, and it was the nicest way for him to say, man up. But at the same time, I thought to myself, he's right. There are so many things I'm afraid of in the world. And things like connections that I could make, beautiful experiences that I can have, they're on the other side of what is it that I'm scared to do. And so ecstatic dance was one of them, where I'm like, I'm afraid. That's an edge. And where I had stopped previously was a challenge for myself to do the thing that I'm scared of. And what happened on the other side of fear? Friendship, freedom, the amazing community, changes in myself, changes in my energy, changes in how I perceive myself. Freedom, fun, dancing, movement, everything. All of this amazing things was just on the other side of something in my body stops me because I'm scared.
Yeah.
So I'd like to say that this is years of practice. I'd like to say I'm facing fears, but I'm still tackling new fears all the time and still teaching myself that like whatever's on the other side of it is not as bad as what I have imagined. And that's where I think true growth and true happiness is really found.
Wow, I would have had no idea seeing your embodiment and seeing how you show up now as a man. It's not easily seen. So it speaks to actually how much you're doing it now, not just thinking it and intellectualizing it, but embodying it. So then if that was the pattern for you of like, oh, let me be comfortable for the most part. Let me, stay the track. And, maybe that happened in education, but I'm curious with kind of your earlier years, what were the things do you think that informed that behavior? Like, what are the early stories and experiences we should know about Ethan to know how you're starting to shed those layers now, today?
Sure. Well, growing up, like every guy that you've ever talked to, boy, was I great at sports as a kid, right? Man, I was good. And like I wasn't, but I think I developed a perfectionist attitude from being good at things, and therefore I wanted to be good at other things. And then I was very autonomous from very young. I have been on my own for a very long time and was afraid to ask for help and started accounting on myself for things. So I always wanted to be good at things. This then became part of my sense of self. How other people viewed me, more my self-esteem became contingent upon how other people viewed me. And so I grew up to be relatively attractive, relatively successful in life. And people were like, oh, you've got it all together. You're traveling the world. You're a lawyer. You do all these really cool things. So I'm like, well, I've got to keep this up. And that drove me down a terrible path. I developed a giant ego. I couldn't ask for help from other people. I couldn't experience my own feelings, let alone the feelings of others, and experience empathy. Became very autonomy led to selfishness. And I actually exhibited narcissistic tendencies for a very long period of time, things that I wasn't aware of, until things began crashing down around me. And friendships, relationships, business, relationship with myself. I didn't understand why things weren't going well anymore. And to realize that I was kind of at the center of all of these things. And my inability to let go, my inability to fail, my inability to ask for help for people, and to realize that I didn't have all the answers and that I was just fooling myself and trying to keep up this charade. And it was a gigantic house of cards that is eventually going to crumble, and did.
So you said you had to be autonomous at a young age. I'm curious why that occurred. Why did you have to be autonomous so young that then informed the isolated common story of the lone wolf, or I've got it, the masculine story of I'll do it myself? Why did it happen in your youth where you felt like you had to do it alone? What informed that?
Boy, that's been the subject of therapy for the last few years of trying to track it down. I will say, to the best of my understanding and recollection, in my familial environment, it was easier for my parents to be like, throw Ethan in this. He'll take care of himself. We've got to focus on other things. They didn't have bad parenting. They made the best possible decisions. I'd be able to kind of deal with things on my own. So I got very used to that. And I remembered one of the saddest memories that I ever had with my mom, one that I still feel really terrible about, and one that really hurt her, was the day that she dropped me off at college. And her and my father sat me down, and they got me this giant box of Costco of Velveeta shells and cheese. And they had got me The Rock, this wrestling poster for the back of my door. And they set me up in my dorm room, and they just wanted to sit there and just teach me the last few things. Just here's how you write a check. Here's how you do this. And I just could not wait to be on my own and be by myself and do it. And I was very short with them. I was a little passive aggressive, and it really hurt my mom. And she's like, all right, you do it. Just go. And she told me that she had cried on the entire 3.5 hour drive home. And it was something she held on to for a very long time that I feel really terrible about. but I think it was just I had been used to doing things on my own. And on the flip side of that coin is every time that I would run into trouble in life, I would check in and call my mom, and I'm like, I'm lost. I'm struggling with this. I'm doing bad at this. She would always tell me, you'll figure it out, Ethan. You always do. And it was both really encouraging to be able to count on myself, but I got to the point where it was like, I can only count on myself. I need to figure this out. No one's going to be there for me. And that getting help from people seemed like a sign of weakness. And that what seemed like success for a man in his late 20s at the time, and that's very far in my rear view now, was achieving things and achieving them on my own, and like figuring out how to be the first person in my family to graduate from college and then go to law school, then get rejected from 10 law schools, and then literally pick up the phone and call the law school that I was on the wait list every single day for 2 months saying, can I go to law school now? I really want to go to your law school. Can I go? Until literally the last day before law school started, someone dropped out. And they're like, Ethan, you're still number 10 on the list, but you called every day. Do you want to start tomorrow? And I got this way of thinking that I'm not going to be the smartest person in any room. I'm not going to be the most privileged. I'm not going to have the tools everybody else will, but no one will outwork me. And that was healthy, because I had a healthy amount of determination to be able to accomplish my goals, but it was unhealthy in the sense that I had a warped vision of how to move through the world. And I was like, I could just do this on my own. I don't need anybody else's help. And I think that's really where I crossed over from a healthy degree of self-determination to a warped degree of self-importance and self-reliance. And I think that does lead into a lone wolf mentality and does lead into isolation, and it leads into really closing yourself off to things that could be beautiful in the world because you think you could do it better yourself.
Wow. Yeah, the I can outwork anyone in the room is often very highly motivating for people, because that's a skill. It's like a trainable, it's like, yeah, work ethic. You can train that, you can do that. You can work harder even if you're not born with the traits. And yet it does push us away from connection, from support, from so many things that I know you're led by now. So I'm curious, going from that place, going from the place of I'm going to do it on my own, lone wolf, getting after it, no one's coming to save you kind of thing. You got to do it. You got to create your reality. Mm-hmm. Was it desperation or was it inspiration that kind of cracked you to, let me start asking for support. Let me lean in. Let me, get the things that I need because I can't do it alone. Like what was that shifting moment?
Sure. This was desperation that led to inspiration.
Cool. As it does.
Yes, right. I really think like when we get ingrained in our patterns, it's really hard to see beyond ourselves, see beyond our problems, see beyond the stories in our mind, right? And so at this height of experiencing narcissistic tendencies and ego and all of this, I was in a long relationship and it fell apart, along with so many other things. And in my head, I was like, well, this could go in one of two ways. It could work out or it can't. And when it didn't, I just marched on with this other path. And then one day I started having nightmares. And I remember calling my friend Jana, who was my CrossFit coach, but like a good female confidant friend. And she said to me, why don't you lean into your emotions? And I said, okay, what does that mean? And she said, just let yourself feel what you're feeling. I'm like, all right, thanks, Jana, click, super helpful. And I sat there, I'm like, okay, feelings, like what am I feeling? And I cracked. And I started having a panic attack. And I started literally vomiting emotions. I was like laying on my floor in this pool of like sobbing, crying, like curling up in like a fetal position, screaming. And I call her and I said, what the hell is going on? And she said, oh, Ethan, those are called emotions. Normal people feel those things. Welcome back. And it was this first moment of probably 10, 15 years of my life that I didn't allow myself to feel the loss of my grandmother, who I love very much, because I thought I had to be the rock for my family's emotions and I had to be the stoic one while they, fell apart. And then I went to college and I was actually going to school for radio television. And I had this really cool radio show that was super fun. And then I got a little bit pushing the envelope and they kicked me off the air and they rejected me from finishing the major. I had to restart over again and outwork myself through the legal field, but didn't feel it, just use as fuel and motivation. I just closed up and closed up and closed up. And I'm like, nothing's going to get through. Nothing's going to stop me. Right. And it just what I learned through this experience, and my friend introducing me to Brene Brown, and learning that authenticity and vulnerability is the key to connection, one. And that two, you can't selectively tuck away an emotion. You can't tuck away fear without tucking away love. It's not like I'm not going to let that come through with the guy doing the VIP line. It's going to let all these other things through. No, you literally close yourself off. There was this first crack where just things started spilling out. And that became the inspiration or the opportunity for things like going to therapy. To talk to my former partner and said, what were you experiencing? And she's saying, look, I love you and I think you were doing these things and these things made me feel this way. And my logical brain was able to say, she's right, I did that. And I saw her react in this way. And oh my gosh, that was really poor of me to behave in that way. And I think it started this big humbling experience of, I can't do this all on my own. I need feedback from other people. I have been going in this one way and I'm so imbalanced. I deal with emotional situations from here and not here. I don't know what other people are feeling. I could say the right thing, but people are like, I can't feel anything from you. No wonder why. And it's been now 6 years of going to therapy almost on a weekly basis. It's been 6 years of having to humbling myself and say, I ran my businesses into the ground with bad decisions. I should not be making the financial decisions for my businesses. I need to hand this over to somebody else in my business who does it better. And the accountants to tell me what to do. And I got to make the decisions ultimately for my life. But I had to humble myself and say, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at relationships. I'm not good at feeling my feelings. I'm not good at communication. I'm not good at creating sustainable relationships. I'm not good at connecting with other people. And that's okay, because now there's an opportunity to start from level 1 and learn. And now what level am I? I don't know, but I don't think it's 1. Certainly not level 100 if that's the top, but it's been a way to say everyone in life is special and we all have different gifts that make us unique, and it's okay to lean into those, but there's also things that we suck at and we need help from other people, and we need to be our true selves and not some superhero because they exist in the Marvel universe and they don't exist here, and our greatest strengths are tied to our greatest weaknesses. And that's really been helpful in knowing that there's not just 2 sides to every coin. There's multiple facets to a gem. And while I might be charismatic and might be, a larger than life figure in some communities, that can also overshadow other people's spotlights. And that can also be more selfish as opposed to more sharing. And to be more mindful of that and keeping those things top of mind of still loving and embracing myself for who I am, and also knowing there's always room to grow. And that the only true way to be able to be a good friend, a good partner, and perhaps a good whole human is to be yourself.
Yeah. I'm so curious about this because Chase and I often have this conversation around athletes and high performers, the ones that are moving from fear versus love. It's honestly very rare to see the very highest performers moving from love. It's way more common to see them moving from fear, moving from something rather than towards something. Yeah. And to your point, usually our biggest pain does transmute to our biggest purpose. It is usually tied in. But I'm curious, especially when it came to the legal side of things, I'm going to go to law school, I'm going to do this, that determination. And you did it, you made it happen, but you efforted it. You forced it in a way to be like, I'm going to make this happen. And for people that are doing this right now, forcing things in life, because I need to do it. I need to grit. I'm in my 20s. I'm at 30, whatever. It's like, this is the time to grit and do. Do you feel that has its place? And in your life, like, that's what I needed to do? Or do you feel like, looking back and the wisdom you have now, there was a way you could have gone about it that was more rounded, more balanced? Because I wonder that effort versus that ease and that surrender, because there's a time for both. But often we just go full extreme into one or the other.
We do.
Yeah.
And then we drown.
Yeah.
You know, we have a goal. Whatever our goal is in life, like whatever our dream is there. And we want to get towards our goal. And so Ray Dalio talks about this in the book Principles. He's like, having big dreams plus lots of determination plus an acceptance of truth and reality and what is leads to a successful life. And so let's say that, like, your goal is across some raging river, right? And so I've got this big dream and I want to go after it, whatever it is. I'm not going to get there by luck. Yeah, look, we're in a spiritual community. Yeah, we meditate. Yeah, we manifest. But, like, also, you got to put in the work. Arnold Schwarzenegger, dreams don't work unless you do. It's true. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, so I got to swim. I got to put in some effort to be able to get there. I've got to dream it. I've got to want it. Got to set my attention. Got to put my awareness on it. And I have to do it. But then there's a time where you set off towards the direction of your dream and your goal, and you realize sometimes I'm in flow and sometimes I'm swimming upstream. And there's a time sometimes to push, and that's good. But there's also a time to realize I'm swimming against the tides, that all these challenges that I feel strong from overcoming are obstacles the universe is putting in my way to say, maybe that's not the right path.
How do you discern that now at this phase in your life? Because you've accomplished a lot. You're now traveling the world. You're continuing to be of service, and we'll speak to why you're going back to the US to do that. But how do you know when, oh, this is something I'm being called into and I'm going to make it happen, versus, oh, nope, the pattern's just coming up again? Because, you know, the things do reoccur, right? It's not like, oh, we healed it, we're whole, we're good, we know everything. But there is a discernment that is almost trainable through experience. And I'm curious for you, how do you know? Is it a bodily thing? Is there a certain way you check in to make decisions? But, like, your discerning process when it comes to knowing, you know, upstream, downstream, in flow versus in resistance.
First thing was 20 years of making mistakes.
That helps.
Yeah, right. I got a good amount of some people might call it wisdom. I'm 43 years old, right? I've been through my 20s and been through the push, been through the 30s and been through the push. So what I mean by that is life is this process of running after goals, encountering mistakes, setbacks, and weaknesses, figuring out what we're going to do about them, put that plan in place, and then keep going. And so I think the universe, if you're going in the wrong direction, the universe is going to keep putting obstacles up there. And if we keep just busting our head through these obstacles, the universe is going to give us bigger and bigger and bigger obstacles. And so in a way, I think at some point you're like, this isn't working. What I'm doing isn't working anymore. Determination is a tool, but the same tool doesn't work for every single situation. And I can't hammer my way through everything in life. And I think I got to a point where I dealt with everything with logic. I dealt with everything with determination, and it wasn't working anymore. There are some problems, there are some realities that are out there that working hard just can't fix. And, you know, like my grandfather, right, who was like a firefighter, he would tell me, like, no, working hard, that's a solution. Like, run into a problem, work harder. Fall down, work harder. No, dude, you're wrong. Sometimes. And I think I got to a point where I was like, working harder isn't it. And then sometimes you kind of just feel this feeling in your body where something doesn't feel right. I'm feeling stuck. Like, this isn't it. You stop relying upon this tool and you start listening to your body, to the universe, to these signals. And you start saying, wait a minute, maybe there's another way. Maybe instead of running into the same obstacle time and time again, I could take a step back. I could pause, and I can look at this situation from a different angle. and realize, I'm getting the same result because I keep doing the same thing. What if I do this a little bit differently? And I think that's when you level up. That's when you grow. That's when you have pushed yourself beyond and you've integrated and learned something. And now you're not going to hit that obstacle anymore. And you're free to run after bigger goals in life and therefore bigger obstacles, and give yourself the opportunity to learn new lessons.
Yeah. So in Whole Human, we talk about there being 5 bodies, right? It's like the 5 doshas in Eastern tradition. And it's very, similar to what you're talking about. You're in the mental body. It's like just mental. And that's what's leading the space, is my intellect, my thought, my memory. What did I retain? And that's how I'm taking action. But then what you said is you've trained your emotional body as well. Obviously, you've trained your physical. We can see that if you're watching the podcast.
But you just see me flex also on cameras.
How's it look? This idea of merging the body. So it's like, it's not kind of throwing away the mental body. That's not a bad thing to think and process and intellectualize. But if you can integrate the emotional experience of having that emotional capacity and then bringing thought, logic into it as well, it's all possible. And we start bridging these bodies. So it's beautiful now to hear how you're kind of navigating. And for you, it sounds like you've started to bring, the past experiences that maybe, some would call wisdom. You're having just these experiences. Yeah, it was all mental. So the mental body's trained. You're like, I trained the hell out of this. Awesome. Strong.
Sure.
Doesn't mean I'm going to let go of it now. It means it's a strength, but now the emotional body needs some training. So you're bridging these spaces. When it comes to decision making, because you spoke to it briefly, but for you in particular, like if you're making a big decision and somebody invites you to Nosara, somebody invites you back to the States, how do you connect in with, this is how I make decisions? Because some people will say, my intuition. You've said the universe. These things are very vague, right? And they're different for each person.
Sure.
Some people just know, like, the Tao, the river, the infinite flow. I'm just in the Tao. It's like, amazing, cool. But that experience for you, I'm very curious about. It's like, what is the feeling? What is the North Star for you? The thing you're like, when I feel that, I know I'm in. Or when it connects my heart to my head, that's when I know I'm on the right path. How do you know? And this is actually a little documentary you have, right? It's called The Right Path. Mm-hmm. And I know in that documentary, you don't say I'm on the right path, but you talk about there being an exploration to the right path. And so do you have any clarity since that documentary came out and how you know or feel like you're on that right path?
Thank you. Follow-up question. Are we allowed to curse on this podcast?
Yes, you fucking can.
Okay, good. All right. So the main guiding light is something a fuck yeah? That's it. Does something give me fuck yeah energy? When you're like, hey, do you want to join our adventure group and go paddleboarding? And my body says, yeah, like, fuck yeah. Like, that's what I'm going to do. When someone's like, hey, do you want to go like crochet this sweater with us? And my body's like, and if I say yes, right, but I don't get that excitement, then that's not leading. But where does that come from? How do you develop fuck yeah energy? Coming to this podcast, I was like, this is my last day here, right? There's people that I want to be able to see. There's places that I want to do. There's like things that I wanted to have for myself. And also, you're like, hey, do you want to do this podcast? I was like, fuck yeah. All right, let's make time. Let's do this. It's in flow. How do you get there? So for me, my process is kind of twofold. All right. I actually used to have a logical process for this. That logical process is now integrated into my emotional body, which gives me that fuck yeah energy to be able to access. So years ago, I had to make a decision in life. And this is a super long story, so I'm going to shrink it super short. Basically, I couldn't make a decision. All right. And I Googled, how do you make a difficult life decision? And in a nutshell, I kind of realized that I didn't know what it was that I wanted out of life. And in order to figure out how to make a decision, I had to figure out what I wanted out of life. And so I started with a logical process of literally writing down like what made me happy, what didn't. And through this process, I came up with a list of things that I love. For me, exploring, traveling, reading, writing, teaching, speaking, helping other people, my niche in social media law, spending time with friends. If it's one of those things, my body lights up. Now, I did that 10 years ago. I added a few more. Play, dreams, love. Those things light me up. You want to talk about what the meaning of dreams are and how they exist in reality? I will drop everything. You want to go get in the car and just drive in a random destination because you heard there's like some neat waterfall that may be somewhere? LFG, right? You know, if you want, like, that's it. If you want to go play Nintendo, yes, or Dungeons and Dragons, yeah, like those things light me up. I now have a kind of a good idea of what makes me happy in life. And so previously, I would have to go through my filters. Does this situation align with one of these things? Why? Because I lived here in my head. Now I know what it is that I like, and I know what gets me excited. And so when these things come across my intention, my vibration, my energy, my body lights up. Do I want to go to this ecstatic dance? Absolutely, I want to go to that. Do I want to go on a 10-mile hike? Sometimes my body says yes. Sometimes my body says no. Sometimes I'm scared and excited but afraid. That still is a yes sometimes. But if my energy is no, if my energy is flat, if I'm tired, then it's a no. And so I think it started with, for me, having to figure out what made me happy. What do I love most in life? And then be able to just live that fully. Get rid of everything else. Travel the world, fill time. If I love exploring and traveling, those are my number 1 and 2. Don't squeeze that into the cracks of my life. Make that the core. Allow work, allow relationship, allow everything else to come in. Okay, now I realize I miss community as a part of it, and I found it. What do I leave no sorrow with? I had to add community to that list. I had friends, spending time with friends, but perhaps I didn't highlight that, prioritize that as much. So I think now my body responds because I have more of a feeling of what makes me happy as opposed to like what looks cool to other people or what do other people think is a cool life.
That takes a lot of courage to do that. I don't know if you've read the book, The Courage to be Disliked, but it speaks to that, is that really knowing, defining and claiming what it is that fulfills you, because so many people are reactive to their environments, to their families, to their friends, and then become that thing, even if that's not their truth. So, man, this is great to hear, and something I talk about that is often goes against a lot of people's beliefs, but I speak to intuition being trained, and actually it's a trainable mechanism because many of us are trained out of our intuition. So people are like, oh, it's my intuition, it's my gut. It's like, yeah, but your gut can often be what I'm afraid of, and that's embedded in you because of a fear from a childhood or whatever. And then that's how I'm moving through my life, from fear.
Sure.
But what you're saying is declaring the things that light you up, following the frequency. Sounds like excitement is kind of a core pillar. It's like these things like light you up and you feel excited for them, the fuck yes things. You've declared them. So it's almost like you're refining for your intuition, like, oh, thank you. Okay, now we know the thing that we're moving towards and you're creating. And so obviously there's layers to intuition on the soul level.
Sure.
But as far as the human experience goes, it sounds like you've had it defined. And I'm glad you brought up community, because I was wondering about this. As somebody who's a traveler, I've traveled since I'm 18 years old and traveled around. And one of my pillars has always been community. And I would create little micro communities wherever I go. I imagine you can experience that being here and seeing the little communities we're creating. And yet, when we're traveling and actually on the road, how possible is it to have community and have connection, have authentic connection with people? It seems like you've done that here in a short period of time. But how is that? How is that for you, if that's a new pillar that you're realizing for you? Because meaningful relationships are the things, you've seen Into the Wild, right? So you've seen the guy that travels his whole life and seeks the experience and realizes in his last moments that happiness is only real when shared.
Yeah.
And I get goosebumps actually every time I say it, because yes, it's amazing to be a seeker and adventurer and going on these solo travels. But then you realize in my heart, I want to share experiences. So for you, how is that? Obviously, you're having insights recently, but how's that been for you? And how do you start curating community?
Time and space and vulnerability and authenticity. But it took a while to get there. And I paused a little bit because you mentioned this documentary. Okay. I'm not someone that people should make a documentary about in life. When I first started this nomadic journey 6 years ago. So yeah, if you're just tuning in, I've been like living in 2 suitcases and a backpack for 6 years. I run a law firm and do lots of volunteering and do other stuff. But basically 6 years ago, I was living a life. I was sworn into practice before the United States Supreme Court. I was named the Entrepreneur of the Year in Miami, the Young Lawyer of the Year in the state of Florida. And then I'm like, cool, I quit. And started just traveling full time. And a couple months into it, I was living in Austin, Texas, and I met this wonderful woman whose name is Stephanie. And Stephanie was like, why did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, just this is my dream. This is my path. Like our time in life is short. We don't know how much time we have. We got to fill our life doing things that we enjoy doing. And so I'm doing this. And she's like, okay, I kind of want to follow. And she's like, where are you going next? I'm like, I'm just going to get lost in the desert for a couple weeks. And she's like, all right, I want to follow you there. And so the whole documentary came to be. She just followed me because she had a question in her mind of a difficult life decision of what path to go down. And she thought I had it all figured out. Spoiler alert, I didn't. Or maybe in some fashion I did, but didn't realize it. The end of this trip, she hands me into the wild. And she said, there's a lesson to be learned here. And I took the lesson away as like, don't live in a school bus in Alaska in a winter storm and like eat some shady potato seeds because I'm going to end up dead. And look, of course I got happiness is only real when shared. But boy, did that not set in at the time. And people would always ask me, are you lonely? And my canned response would be, well, I'm alone a lot, but there's a difference between being alone and lonely. And I started realizing a few different things along the way. There were some times, and I'm going to get back to time and space and vulnerability and authenticity for community. But there were times when I went somewhere, like when I lived in Jackson, Wyoming, in Jackson Hole, and I dropped in and I stayed in a hostel for what was a week that turned out to be 3 months and made this beautiful friendship group. And I cried like a little kid driving out of Jackson because I was leaving friends and people that I cared about and loved. Then there were times where I would live somewhere for a week and continue moving on, and people were like, are you lonely? I'm like, no, I got my friends. We met, we connected, we're friends on Instagram. Like I've got community and friendship all over the world, and I do, but it's not the same. Mm-hmm. For me, I fooled myself into thinking that you can meet somebody, have a few beers, or like hang out for a week or two, and hey, we're friends, or we fell in love, we had this like wild romance, and we're going to stay in touch, and we're going to drift. And then they're just going to become an Instagram follower that eventually unfollows you 3 years later because what were they? You didn't have what's necessary for community, time, the quality time. It's not so much length of time, but that does matter. Space to like truly get to know people, space to be your best, space to be your worst, and like, it's okay. Space to like dress up and look good and feel great, and space just be a schlub and feel bad and like show up to things and be like, I just don't have the energy today, or just to cancel on things because you don't need, just to be yourself. That leads to like authenticity. I don't think we would be friends 5 years ago. I think you would have sussed me out as like, oh, that's a flashy guy that like showed up at the dance without a shirt on and like made some moves and like talked to like cute girls and like, I'm a world traveler, want to like check out someone filmed a documentary about me. Like, no, there were points in my life where I was like that. I'm not proud of it. But to like look back upon that version of myself, I realized like I wasn't living that authentically. I was trying to be cool and trying to like keep up this like neat um, perception of myself that other people, I think, had at some point when they were like, you left the real world to go do this. And instead just being more authentic and being someone that's not nice but kind. Someone that will listen to somebody, someone that will just say, hey, I'm doing something. And I say, I will be there, and I will be there. Even if I did what you were the night before and like
Throwing up.
throwing up and didn't sleep, like I will be there, then I will go right back to bed. I'll show up, to be my authentic self and to say like, hey, this is great. I'm leaving now because I'm weak and I can't do this anymore. But I think those are the things that community requires you to be there, requires you to be yourself, and it requires you to pour into something and have the time and space to really connect with people and to serve a common purpose and to share a common value. And I think that's what communities are. And I think when you are aligned with yourself and you're aligned with other people and you come with an aspect of service, whether that's supporting someone's event, whether it's like helping them to pick garbage up around town, whether it's to just like sit there and listen to somebody who's having a bad day and not offer advice and just say, hey, it's okay to feel this way. I'll just feel this way with you. That's what I think community is. And that's what I think I learned here. And I think what I will take away beyond the friendships is I can't go back to traveling in the way that I was before if I really want to have community. I've got to give myself to a place and give myself to a community and drop in for that time and drop in for that space and be there. And then that's where like true magic happens.
Yeah.
And true relationships grow and you become part of something that truly matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks like we might be seeing you back in Nosara soon.
Your lips, the universe's ears.
You brought up service, and that was actually one of the main points I wanted to go into in this episode. And I want to make sure we touch on it because it is one of the things I noticed after we met at dance. We had a chat on the beach. Everyone goes to sunset in Nosara. It's what you do. And it's amazing as a priority, as a community, that you drop what you're doing and you go catch sunset. And I just happened to see you at sunset. I went with the crew and you were sitting there listening to something and you didn't mind being interrupted. And we just dropped in. And I got to hear more about the libraries that you have been building, the mini libraries. That was from your mother. And I would love to hear, you share this as well. And it occurred to me, like, wow, this man is really a man of service. And not because of what you were doing, because anybody could do the thing. It's not about doing the thing. It's about how you were sharing the thing and what I was picking up on while you were sharing the thing. Because I've become pretty attuned. I have a pretty good ship meter when it comes to hearing people and dropping in with them and feeling authenticity, because I've been navigating, exploring that myself and wanting to be fully authentic. So when I see people that are doing good things in the world and are authentically doing the thing, not, hey, I'm going to post doing the thing and here I'm doing the thing. I'm going to tell everybody about the thing that I'm doing. Your humility in it of just, yeah, this is what I'm doing and I want to do this thing. The service that you have and that I can see and feel that you move with is so inspiring, man. It's very inspiring for me. I've worked with nonprofits. I've done a lot of service-based work. I will continue to until the day that I die. But when I hear what you're doing, it really lights me up, because it's not service for your own mission, even though it's probably become that now, but it's a continuation and bringing, from the story of your mother and bringing that forward. And that just lights my heart up. And you brought up the pillar of love. And to me, that is my North Star as of lately, is just following love. So if you wouldn't mind sharing, this mission of service and what it is that you're doing, because it lights me up when I hear it.
Thank you. It means a lot. Somewhere I read, the meaning of life is to find your gift and the purpose of life is to give it away. I think my mom was a really good North Star for me in that way. Love was your North Star. She was someone that really liked to give back and do things and serve. I learned a lot from her. And that was one of the greatest gifts that she left me. When I graduated college, my mom gave me the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And really loved it. It became my favorite book, and one that I will like read to children or read to myself. And my mom a few years ago had double pneumonia, was in the hospital, was in a coma for a couple months. And we were only allowed to see her because it was during the pandemic over FaceTime. I have to say goodbye to your mother over FaceTime over a couple month period of time was really tough. But I would each night read her All the Places You'll Go. Because my mom loved to read. And she also worked with children in elementary school. And so when she passed, we wanted to honor her by building Siddell's little library, which started off as just a little library like outside of her home where my father still lives, that I'll be at soon. And we painted a pineapple on the side. And like the Nosara community, pineapples mean something different. So my mom wasn't into that lifestyle. But my mom used to tell her friends, like, be like a pineapple, stand tall, wear a crown, and be sweet on the inside. So we built Siddell's first little library. And after living with my father for a while until he felt like he was ready and sick of me being at home with him, we did a couple things. First, he was like, go back out, go travel. Like, your mother loved watching you do those things. And my brother made a 3D printer of a necklace with a little pineapple. And he's like, take it with you so that you could take her on the journey too. And we decided collectively, my father, brother, and I, after we built this first one, that we're just going to build little free libraries around the world as a way to honor the things that my mom loved. And then we created these little stickers with my mom's Bitmoji, like from a text message that she loved, and put a little pineapple behind it as well. And it's like a picture of like her like this. Sorry, I just hit the mic, but like this. It says SiddellsOldLibrary.com, and we stick the sticker in the back of all the books that go in these libraries so that it's not front cover, it's not front and center. But as people find these books, they might see this and they go to the website, they will learn about her and her life. And it was a way to be of service to the world and to keep her legacy alive by inspiring other children and other people to fall in love as well with reading and to have that to be accessible with them. And, it's something that I truly love. And when I'm not working on it, my mom is nagging me from spirit saying like, where's my next library? Like, okay, you've had some fun, but like, don't forget about your mom. You can like see her over here, still doing that. But that's one of the ways in which I love to serve. I started a nonprofit called Let's Plant a Seed that's designed to just heal the world through community service. And the point of it is just, if we spend more time doing things in life that we love, we will be happier. And if we do these things in a way that gives back through community service, that we could spread our happiness beyond ourselves and really create an impact and change the world even after we're gone. Just like if you were to have a garden, you're happier in your life by watering the plants, and the real benefit to the world happens after you're gone. So if we all did more of what we loved, and if we all did something that we loved in a way that gave back and helped other people, you don't know the limits of how you can inspire people. And you don't realize that, like, if you love to play piano and you never learned and you play piano, like, you're going to be happy. And if you taught inner city kids to play the piano, like, you don't know who you have inspired. And the feeling that you get from doing good things for people and being of service, there's no feeling like it. Like, you talk about love being a North Star, this feeling of just, I'm doing something and it's not for me. It does feel good. It's not for my Instagram account. I don't know who this is going to help. Or like, I don't know these people who I'm helping. Like, I can't tell you what that feeling feels like. Like, I fell in love for the first time last year. I don't know what that feeling feels like. That's to be of service is the closest feeling. It's something that you just feel good everywhere. And all of a sudden the world lights up. Colors are brighter. Your heart beats deeper. The appreciation that you get from people, like that's not why you do it, but it's like a reflection of how what you do matters. And so for me, what's the meaning in my life is to serve. And my gift is to be of service. And some of the most amazing experiences have happened in my life by just, for example, walking into the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center in New Mexico and walking up to the counter of their offices and just says, "Hi, I'm Ethan. How can I help?" And it's then led me on a path of service with the Native American tribes there that has been the biggest dream of my life. And it all just started with, how can I help? How can I be of service? And if that is my North Star and not how do I make money? How do I be cool? How do I get people to like me? How do I get more followers on Instagram? How do I become rich? How do I get this car? How do I get this girl or guy? Like, how do I get this title? How do I get this Tesla? Like, those things are cool. But those things come and those things go. Like true happiness, true service, true love doesn't.
It's pretty incredible how we do have it backwards. We think being selfish is the thing that is actually going to get us where we want to go. But being selfless can often actually be the most selfish thing because you're alluding to it. It's like we're being selfless to give, to serve, but it actually fulfills us so much. It's like, whoa, I'm getting so much from giving. It's amazing. And it takes doing it to realize that being fully selfless is in the long term the most selfish thing we can do, because that's going to be the most fulfilling thing for ourselves. But we think if I'm selfish now, okay, I'll get what I want. I'll get what I want. Very short term, very finite. But the infinite game is the one of service, because when you are like that and you are of service, people do want to give to you. They're like, Ethan, how can I support you? Like, you're doing so much. And it just is given. I experience the same thing anytime I'm of service and really just want to give. Like, I just want to give. And I receive so much more than I could ever think, fathom, or try to effort. And that's the beautiful dichotomy of it.
It is. And it seems paradoxical.
Yeah, it is.
But I can tell you, look, I'm not a coach. I'm not a guru. I ain't selling you shit. You live your own life. But if there's like one universal truth that I've learned, it's that if you serve, if you give back in whatever fashion, it's going to come back to you in so much more. And I can't explain it. I don't know. It doesn't matter your motivations. We talked before the podcast. How'd you start serving? I wanted to impress a girl. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'm glad I did. Did I get the girl? No. Robin, hope you're happy out there. But thank you. It didn't matter how I started. Okay, it mattered that I did. And then what did I do when I started doing this? I felt great. People were coming up to me, "Oh, you're the community service guy." Okay, and then I was like, how can I help you? All of a sudden, this thoughts of this is going to take time away from things that I do to make money or like other things I wanted to do. It didn't matter. Everything starts falling into place. And I go to these Joe Dispenza meditations. I don't understand how the quantum field and all this stuff works. You think I do? No, I'm doing my best. I'm showing up, I'm meditating. But there's something about the energy and frequency of service. It's like gratitude. It's like love. It's all there. And like, do you want to do it for that reason? Cool. But just doing it feels great. And like, is that selfish? Maybe. But boy, if that's the motivation, I'm just going to keep doing it, And if each of us are like a flame, and we realize that we have the ability to continuously light other people's flames and not distinguish our own, like it's true. It's true. And ours burns brighter as a result. And life is sweeter. Our passions are greater. Our friendships are deeper. Our words, actions, things mean more when we give. And it doesn't matter how. And the best way is when no one else is looking. It's why I stopped posting on social media. I started doing pro bono, I'll just say it, like I started doing pro bono legal work, and I went to like my friends, I'm like, should we post this on our Instagram that we're doing legal work for nonprofits? And my best friend was like, what do you think? And I was like, you're right. No, just do it. Just do it. Just find a way to give back. And that's the gift. That's what matters, not what other people think, not what other people care about. Like, you know what you did. You can sleep at night knowing that you feel more fulfilled. And like, gosh, how you impacted other people, like that's how you're going to be remembered.
That's what you will remember too at the end of your life. Those moments, those experiences, shared experiences, what you've given to the world. Definitely.
Yeah.
Final thing I want to ask you is kind of the closing tradition of the podcast, but what does it mean for you to be whole now in your life?
I don't know if I am. What it means to be whole in my life is my Everest.
Yeah.
I feel like we all like come into life like with certain gifts, things that we're great at. There's things that we suck at. Like, what is becoming whole? I think part of it is our personal evolution. How do we grow and how do we change? How do we look in the mirror and realize there are aspects of myself that can be better, that maybe I don't love? I could be nicer and kinder to other people. I can not have to feel like I've got to do things all the time. I can slow down. I can be losing my hair at 43 years old and be okay with it. I think what it means to be a whole human is to realize that no human is completely whole and that that's okay. And that our growth is growing to a place of self-love and acceptance for exactly who we are, while at the same time knowing that there may be ways that we want to be better. Be better for ourselves, be better for our friends, to be better friends, to be better for our partners, to be better for the community, to be better for our children, to be better for the world. And will we achieve wholeness? I don't know, but I don't think that's the goal. I think the goal is the journey towards wholeness. I think the goal is the journey itself. I think the goal is that harmony, finding that balance, finding ways to be a better human, a better friend, a better partner, a better lover, a better person. And if that's the path and that's the journey of life, and at the very end, when you look back and say, like, did I lead a good life? Was I a good person? Was I a whole human? Like, we want to be able to answer to ourselves, like, I did the best that I could. And I'm proud with who I was and how I spent my time. And when I realized that there were ways that I could have been better, I did the best that I could to be able to do that. I think that's what being whole is. And then even if I didn't get to the top, I didn't summit Everest, I didn't become the person that I completely envisioned I could become, it's good enough, because I did my best and I enjoyed it and I made great friends and I made a difference and I had fun along the way. And I think that's what being a whole human is. I think that's what matters. And I think that's a life well lived. And I think that's good enough.
Oh, So beautiful. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you for
Ryan.
being on the podcast today. Such a pleasure to have you here on your last day in Nosara. For now, I know you'll be back. Such a gift.
Appreciate
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you. Thanks for your friendship.